Caution to Zack Synder fans. This is a ranking that is by a person who doesn't love Zack Synder or hate Zack Synder. This is someone that is fully in the middle of his work. But I will let you know there are Zack Synder films that I do like. But there are going to be a lot of very controversial choices for you guys. But make it clear, I might not love Zack Synder or hate him. I still think he's a good director. I will still see whatever he makes. And I still think when he's good, he is really, really good. And when it comes to directors like him, Michael Bay, and M. Night Shyamalan, I don't even like to say those directors are all right bad. I think those directors that can be really good, and they're a lot better than other directors that are working in Hollywood. So anyway, let's get right into Zack Snyder's ranking.
Be very careful with the next thing you say.
So coming in at number 11 is his most recent film, and that is Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. This moon Zack Synder makes like the first half of this epic story, and makes you really excited for the next one. And this was a bit of a letdown, and that's mainly because he's sort of hoping that a part 3 is going to happen, but I don't really think there's going to be a Rebel Moon Part 3 after this, because no one really likes it at all. And this, because I liked the first one a little bit, we'll talk about it soon. But I did like some aspects of this movie. There's still some fight scenes. I do like we get a little more of the characters. But at the same time, it's just there's nothing really new about it. They just killed the bad guy from the first film, which I wish they kept dead. And the visuals are just terrible in some stuff. Mainly the stuff on the regular planet, on the farm planet, my god, the CGI is not good. The action is like fun at first, but then it gets really boring. Overall, this is a two-parter series that I wish was just one movie. So number 10 is also might be a little unsurprising, but it is going to be Sucker Punch for me. This one's also low because I didn't really hate this movie. It's bad, but it's like I don't really hate it. But this movie just makes me think, what is going on? And I know it's like the whole point of like what's going on with the movie, but what is Zack Snyder really trying to do? Like, he's trying to set up a message, but at the same time though, it just feels like his excuse to just do a bunch of like cool unexplained action sequences, and it's just not really fun at times. It's such a weird movie to watch, and it does have like some cool things. I like the visual style. I like Oscar Isaac in it. I love Oscar Isaac, and him singing a song from the Super Mario Brothers movie was kind of fun to watch. And that's about it. The visuals, Oscar Isaac. The actresses are fine, but yeah, I don't really have that much to say about Sucker Punch. It's kind of weird. It's a very just weird Snyder film that I just can't seem to uncrack. So number 9 is going to be very, very controversial. This is my most controversial place, and that is Watchmen.
That's not very careful.
Now, Watchmen, it's weird because I've never read the comic. I heard things about the comic, what people say and like what's in it. And watching this movie, and knowing kind of some of the stuff, it does not sit well with me. Like, this is like, I feel like if Watchmen's meant to be this like dark, mature story, then why, like, Zack Snyder made this way too cool then, which is weird to say. This movie is just way too like overly cool, and it just doesn't, and it feels wrong at times. I just don't think Zack Snyder's direction works for this movie and this universe and this story. But there are good stuff about it. I really do like Jackie Lee Irving's Rorschach. I think the character is, great. Not a great person, but I think it's like a deep, dark character. Billy Crudup as Dr. Manhattan. I think his performance is really good and sad. And I like Patrick Wilson as Night Owl. I think all three of these actors are really good, and but the Swedish, I always forget her name, the Swedish actress, I forgot the character's name. I don't really care for her and the performance. And also Ozymandias I had a huge problem with, because this is like a character that's like, he's supposed to be a surprise villain, but at the same time though, I don't feel like we got to know him any well throughout the film. He's barely in the movie until the third act, and so we don't really ever get to know the character and connect with him, which is just very like, I don't know how they do in the comics, but I just wanted to at least know more about this character. And so it's very weak on villain, it's weak on kind of like direction and like executing its story, but when it comes to some of the characters, I think it works. But overall, I don't think this was a story for Snyder, because overall I don't think he was mature enough for this film. So coming in at number 8 it's another Snyder film that's pretty mixed. But overall, I think people just overall found this film to be very mediocre, and that is Army of the Dead. Zack Snyder's first original film since Sucker Punch, and since probably 300, when he just went back to kind of just making like silly popcorn films. And I think this movie had like a really good plot to it, and it had like a fun premise, fun characters on paper, and like cool ideas, like how they were gonna do zombies, and like I think they're supposed to connect them with like aliens because of Area 51. So they're doing something interesting there. But the movie it feels weird like when I'm talking about this, but this feels very long and overdrawn, even more than the Snyder cut. I am dead serious. This movie feels like this really could have been cut down. Like this should have been almost as long as his other zombie film, Dawn of the Dead. This just feels way too long. But some of the characters I think just kind of suck. Some of them feel just like retreads of like characters from Aliens, like the Burke characters in this, like a Vasquez character. It feels very annoying and like almost like it wasn't original. It's just like, holy shit, this movie is just basically Aliens but with zombies, and it's in Vegas. I really wanted to like this movie, but it just wasn't that fun at times. There's just like some of the action just wasn't even that fun. I'm very down on this one, but like it has some cool things, like the more like how there are the more like they're the more supreme zombies, and there's like regular zombies. Like that was kind of interesting stuff that they were doing there. Like how there's the king zombie, that was like a cool idea. Overall, I just thought some of this it just kind of sucked at times. But I think like the first 40 minutes was pretty good, and the ending got a little bit better, even though some stuff just does not make sense. And I think there's almost like way too many characters in this movie, and I don't even know if I'm gonna even check out Army of Thieves or maybe even check out Planet of the Dead when that comes out. I don't know. This movie just wasn't that good. So number 7 is Rebel Moon Part 1, Child of Fire. I thought a lot of the setup in this was actually really cool, and I thought it was gonna set up for a better movie. But man, I really wish Snyder just combine these into 2 movies. Just make do the Seven Samurai retread thing in this one movie, and then you can take this crew up into you can take them to another planet to fight off the Mother World. That would have been fine, but no, we had to stretch it out a bit, and it's very annoying. But overall, like, thinking back to this movie, I thought it had a lot more cool and fun scenes in it. I liked that, you know, Snyder had Anthony Hopkins voice a robot called Jimmy. Even though I wish this robot did not look so similar to the robot that Anthony Hopkins had in Transformers Last Night. Like, he looked way too similar to it. It's almost like this is a sequel to it. But the fact that, you know, he had Anthony Hopkins voice it, it's voice a robot, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I like seeing that he tried to give Sophia Boutella something, like, you know, because I like I want to say I like Sophia Boutella. Like, I liked her in Kingsman, I liked her in Star Trek Beyond, The Mummy. Well, that just turned a bad movie. I haven't seen Argyle, but I kind of want to see her in stuff because I think she's got something. And I didn't mention also in Rebel Moon, but I did like seeing more of Digimon Hansoon because he feels very. He doesn't really feel like he gets a lot of proper attention in this film. And I like that actor, and I just don't think he gets the proper attention because he's supposed to be this, like, you know, he's meant to be this great general. And then also, I gotta mention, like, so Ray Fisher's in this movie. And Ray Fisher, everyone, like, we all kind of know that Ray Fisher was always, like, standing for Zack Synder for his justice against, you know, what Warner Brothers did. And he also got really badly treated, you know, on the set of Justice League. But it's kind of funny and sad, though, that Zack Synder casts him in Rebel Moon Part 1 to then just have him get killed off. I don't know how he feels about it. Maybe he's just happy that he worked with Zack Synder again. But something about that does feel kind of funny and just weird that he's like, Ray Fisher's like barely in the movie and he gets killed off. Overall, I really wish Rebel Moon was just one movie and then you could have like set up for like whatever the next film's gonna be as like the second film. Because I really think a lot of this has some pretty cool stuff in it. And the fact that this was gonna be a Star Wars film, good part on you, Snyder, or like on Lucasfilm for turning this down, because we already seen how some of the DC fans react to his work with the Snyderverse DC films. So I think it's best that like Snyder does not make any Star Wars films, that he did his original stuff, so I'm happy he did that. Overall, this was just fine. Alright, number 6, guys. We're gonna get a little more upbeat. I promise. Number 6, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I still have my problems with this movie, but I don't hate it as much as I used to from back then. My problem till this day is that there's way too much shit going on. I wish it was just a Batman versus Superman movie and not Batman versus Superman and also a trailer for the Justice League stuff. I wish it wasn't that, and I wish it didn't have so many characters in it. I don't like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. But still, I think there's some pretty cool stuff in it. I think Ben Affleck is great as Batman. Jeremy Irons is great as Alfred. Basically, I think most of the Batman stuff in this is pretty good, but the Superman stuff is just kind of boring for most of the time. And Snyder made a Superman movie where Superman doesn't smile at all, which is very bad part on your part, Snyder. But I think when it gets to the end, it's fun from there, and you kind of then just like forget about all of the dumb like courtroom business stuff that was happening. So you kind of, you know, all that stuff, you know, them trying to frame Superman, you can kind of forgive it for like the last like hour and a half of the movie. But overall, it's not a perfect movie, and it's not my favorite of this Snyder trilogy. But I will admit, this movie does have some pretty cool stuff in it. So coming in number 5 is Man of Steel. So this is like, it's like this and I think the Snyder Cut and Dawn of the Dead is like one of the Snyder films that he didn't write. And Man of Steel, this is more of like this is more of Christopher Nolan idea, and when you really like watch Snyder, and someone like me who has seen Snyder and Nolan's movies, like all of them, you can kind of see the difference, because this movie is basically just like how Batman Begins has a lot of flashbacks in the opening. This also feels like it has a lot of flashbacks in the opening, because I think both Nolan and David S. Goyer, I think they both just kind of took some of the ideas of Batman Begins when writing this, because I think, well, whenever, I don't know when exactly Nolan wrote this, like if this was either during Dark Knight Rises, before Dark Knight Rises, or after Dark Knight Rises. Well, because I think he was more, I don't really know the history, because I know like this came out like, this is definitely in between Dark Knight Rises, some of it, and like Interstellar. But I think, look, it had a lot of like, I think it was better than Superman Returns. I think it had some more like, it had a lot of interesting ideas of Superman, of like him deciding like if his world should live or not, and it does a good job, like, actually like reintroducing Superman in the 21st century, and like him, like how would he alternate with the world today, then, like, because that's not what Superman Returns really did. But overall, but then there's some stuff that like there's some of the dialogue I think overall isn't so great from Nolan and Goyer. And I know Snyder, I think he like, this is like the only Snyder film that does not have like any slow-mo in it. It's a lot of handheld shots in this, especially on Krypton, which was, okay, I get like you want to do some handheld stuff on Earth, but like why do you have to do it on Krypton? Like why couldn't you just keep it on Earth? Because I get he wanted to do that, but like overall I think some of the camera work I think was a little overdone. That's why I prefer some of the more filmmaking in BVS better, because it just, I think the look, first off, I think, I don't like the look of Man of Steel. It's probably I just don't like the look of Man of Steel, and I think it's a little too, it's a little too dead, and I think BVS and the Snyder Cut, they have a little, it looks grim, but there's a little more life to it. But that's just real. But those are my complaints. Overall, I think this movie it's fine. Like it's a good movie. I think the acting, Henry Cavill as Superman is really good. I think this is like really the best where he is in his own movie. Michael Shannon as the rival villain, I think, is really good. He's probably my favorite DCU villain. It's a very interesting, complex villain, and I like his moments with Russell Crowe, who was also great in this movie. So this movie, it has a lot of like deep stuff going for it, but it didn't really feel fleshed out, because I think Nolan was too busy really just working on Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar. And it has its problems though, but I think it was an interesting, reboot of the Superman franchise. Alright, so now, if Watchmen was my most controversial bottom pick, then number 4's Legend of the Guardians Owls of Ga'Hoole is probably my most controversial one on like on the top of the list. Like, I kind of liked this movie, and maybe I just like it because Zack Synder, I feel like he actually put effort into this one. And because when you think about it, this is a kids movie, or this is a movie made for kids. This wasn't even written by him, but I think he liked the movie because it had, it was, how it had to do with like mythology and like, these like guardian knights. So he definitely had some like passion for it. And even like if he couldn't do any gory images or like stuff that he likes, it's still like, he really put effort into these visuals, making the world still feel real at times, and just giving a good experience for kids. And I gotta applaud him for that. This movie, it's really good. It's just a fun kids movie with owls, and Zack Snyder was just able to pull it off in this movie. should not have worked, but it does. And this is like, I'd say this and Zack Snyder's Justice League, I wish like this like would have gotten like sequels, and I would have wanted to see more about it, what happens with Soren and his brother, how that would have happened. Like, this movie generally made me want to see more. And unfortunately, no one really saw it, because I think this is just one of those animated movies that is just like very hard to market to kids overall, because this might be way too scary for kids who are like 3 or 5, and then like for kids who are like 8 or 9, they might think this looks a little lame. So it's definitely one of those kids movies it's hard to market. Overall, I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it had its good moments. Maybe it was a little too condensed, and maybe it should have had a little more. I think we should have seen more of Soren's relationship with his brother, but we don't. But overall, like, it's just a very solid, good animated film, and I just gotta applaud Snyder for not phoning this film in. He delivered a really good kids movie. So coming in at number 3 is, of course, 300. As we get down, to the Snyder films that I really like. And 300, it's Snyder at his just peak popcorn fun, and I gotta say that this is definitely not accurate history, of course, but this is definitely feels like a true rival to really a successor to Gladiator, because I think this movie achieves what Gladiator did, and that's just making a fun action historical epic, and it just does it well because it's just fun. It's nothing but people fighting, and just people fighting, and there's just nothing but swords. There's just nothing but blood. It's just meant to be nothing but fun from Snyder, and I think it works. It works. I think the actors are great. They all had to work out every day for this film. I overall don't have much to say about 300, because I think it's one of those fun popcorn movies that just really, really works with what it is, and it's just an example of Snyder is really best when he is making stuff that's not meant to be deep or think that it's high art. It's just a fun, dumb, historical block. So number 2 is his very, very, very first film. That is Dawn of the Dead, and I kind of prefer this over the original. I know. I'll put it better like this. Technically, yes, the original movie is a better movie, has a better, more deeper story to it. But I just kind of prefer Night of the Living Dead when it comes to those Romero films. I think Night of the Living Dead story is more interesting. It's a more shorter film, and I think it's more impactful than Dawn of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead, the remake, I think it actually maintains the stuff I like from Night of the Living Dead, and that is like how some people in this movie are very dysfunctional to work with, and I like seeing that in Dawn of the Dead. Everyone, you see like some people don't get along in this, and then you feel a little more like happy when everyone gets out, and I like it. So, and that's also because this is written by James Gunn, so this movie definitely has some like very James Gunn fun dialogue in it. And I like Snyder's direction because there's only like one slow-mo shot in this movie, and I think a lot of the regular just like straight action scenes are really good. So overall, I think Snyder, his first film, he really nailed it with this movie, because it's a fun zombie film it's done right, and even if it doesn't have a big message in it, the characters I still think are pretty good, and they're still pretty deep, and it works for me. It's a zombie film that works. So if you saw my DCEU ranking back in December, you would definitely know that my favorite is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it is the same thing here. Zack Snyder's Justice League is my favorite Zack Snyder film. It's a film, it might be 4 hours long. The first parts are a little slow, But man, this movie has a lot of cool shit in it, and I love it. This is my favorite comic book movie of the decade so far. I think the action is great. I think all the characterization is great. This is just Zack Snyder's almost like pretty much his perfect movie on every level when it comes to just characters and the story. It works. This movie, it really works, and I'm glad that he was able to sort of have this movie released, even though this is not the film that we would have seen, but it's got a lot of just cool stuff in it, and I just can't help but love this movie because it's just a 4-hour weird art house film at times. Almost, it's basically a comic book film. It's really great. I love it. I love it very much, and I love that this was it was a good film that Snyder fans deserved, and it proved to a lot of people that didn't like Snyder that he is capable. So even if you don't like Snyder's films, you can always know that he is still capable of making good stuff. So there you go. I hope you Snyder fans were able to sit through it, because I was definitely harsh on some stuff. But I really want those top 4 ones I think are really good from Snyder. And look, even if I didn't like his most recent stuff after Snyder Cut, I will still see what he's got next. It's definitely the problem is that Netflix is giving him a little too much control, but maybe he'll learn eventually. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.